What's good, guys? So in today's video we are going to be talking about how to use FlutterFlow in order to build beautiful apps, and more specifically we are going to be talking about the UI, how to use the UI, all the widgets, how to combine it into a beautiful user interface, best practices and stuff like that. So this video is going to be divided into two parts. In the first part, we're going to look at the UI. I'm going to talk about some of the best practices, some of the features, some of the widgets, some of the functionality, so that you can kind of better understand how everything works. And then in the second part, we are going to try to mimic the UI of a very popular app and see if we can come very close to what's existing right now. Now, before we begin, if you're a fan of NoCode, if you want to learn how to build all kinds of apps, help people and make money without learning how to code, without writing a single line of code, then make sure you smash the like button on this video right now. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already, and make sure you leave a comment just to let me know what you think about this video. I don't care, if you like this video or you don't like this video. Just let me know in the comments below what your opinion is. That really helps out the channel, and it really helps to get this video out to as many people as possible. Now, having said that, let's begin. And so here we are in FlutterFlow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project here, and I'm just going to call it a UI test app. Okay, we're going to say create new. We're going to say next step, start building. And so here we are inside of FlutterFlow. And this is the UI stuff. So what typically is going to happen, you're going to be looking at these three things here. You have your pages, you have your widgets here, but this includes this thing right here, components, and this includes UI elements as well, which I'm going to get to in a second as well. And we also have the widget tree, which is very useful for a couple of very important reasons. Now, the first thing that you want to understand is that we have these most frequently used elements, right? So these are the elements that, you're going to be using most of the time, okay? It's kind of self-explanatory. We also have the layout elements. These are very important. We have the container, row, column, and stack. These three are going to be the main layout elements you're going to be using. So what is a layout element? A layout element helps to layout, to align the content. Typically, these elements are all containers, right? So these first three and many other ones as well, but I'm just referring to the first four actually. Container, row, column, and stack. They are all containers. Basically, they contain other elements, okay? So we have that. We have base elements, right? And these are your primitives. You would call them just text, image, circle, image, icon, button, and it's very important to kind of get familiarized with a lot of these elements, because even before you're building the app, you want to go in here and you want to see what's available, okay? And just to give you an example, right? If we go here, we have, buttons and stuff, but we also have a toggle icon. So a toggle icon is very useful if you want to favorite an item, if you want to favorite something. Yeah, typically you can use a button for that, but a toggle icon is much more intuitive, okay? And so before I didn't know there was an existence of toggle icon. Now that I'm a little bit more experienced with it, I understand the functionality. So make sure you get started by kind of, giving it a quick scan. You don't have to memorize everything here, right? But it's important just to understand what's available, so that next time you're building an app and you're like, man, I really wish they had this toggle icon, or they had, something I can just click, not a button, but something that I can, toggle on and off, favorite, unfavorite, add to cart or remove from cart, something like that. That's what it's for. So you want to kind of do that, right? The next thing you want to take a look is this tab right here. These are templates, and these are amazing, right? Here we have a comment with replies here as well. So like you can drag and drop this whole thing here, and you're gonna have like a whole thing here, right? You don't have to. This is all built obviously from primitives, right? So for instance, this is text. You can click on it. You can go to this this widgets tree, and you can see exactly what's happening. Now, a lot of times you can just drag and drop, and you can have this thing available, okay? Sometimes you have to build it on your own, but regardless, you want to kind of take a look and see what's out there. We have social sign-ins. You can just drag it here, drag and drop it here, and you have these icons here, right? You can add your own. You can just go to widgets tree and you can say container, right click and duplicate, and you're gonna have another one, right? It makes it so easy. Very, very easy, right? So you can go back here and you can take a look. And there's a lot of interesting things, right? Do not underestimate this, right? We have a checkout screen here, right? You know, it's gonna take a long time to kind of do it. We have a form. This form has, you know, various fields, etc. We have a credit card form. This is a specific kind of widget. And look at this, it's beautiful. It has the right fonts. It looks really, really nice. So make sure you kind of take a look. You go in here and you kind of get a better idea, because what's the point of reinventing the wheel? If you can use some of these widgets, some of these templates here ready, there's no need to go out and to build it on your own, right? I highly recommend it. Look at this, they have this travel card, which is awesome, right? You can use that if you're building something like TripAdvisor or, you know, Airbnb or some kind of a travel site. You also have, so if you're building something like Airbnb, you have this thing right here. You can just search, find your dream space. This could be Airbnb or, you know, another similar service. So there's a lot of really nice templates. So do not underestimate them, and definitely spend some time here just to get familiarized with them, okay? Now, before we go and actually show you how to build an app, a very, very popular app, how to kind of mimic it using FlutterFlow, I want to briefly talk about the little widgets here, right? So I talked about the layout elements, how that works. So typically, what you want to do is you can have a container here, and then inside that container, this is the container, you can have, you know, an element, or you can have a row in here, right? You can have a row, and that row can have various fields, and then you can have another row. Or you can start with columns, right? So for instance, I can have a column like this, so I can have a column here, and then that column can have rows, right? I can put another row, and this thing is a row inside the column. And if you're confused kind of the setup, you can go to this widgets tree here, and you can see what exactly is happening, and you can actually delete. So you have a column here with a container with a row, but I also have another column. I can just select it, press delete, now it's gone, and I can understand. I can also drag and drop it. So now this column here is kind of, it takes up the whole screen, but it has a row and it has a container. So the row is empty and has a container there as well. So I can delete the row if I want. And that's going to leave me with a column and a container. Another thing that's very, very useful, and I do this all the time, is let's say I have a column here and I want to put a row in there. Instead of basically, you know, finding a row and dragging it into the column, I can just click this thing here, search for the row, click it, and I have a row here. I can also put it higher if I want. I can delete the container. But it makes this hierarchy a lot easier. And then once I have the row, next thing I want to do, maybe a text field. Okay, now I have a text field. So I have a row here. I can highlight, I can duplicate, and I'm going to have two rows inside that column, which is kind of what you want, right? Typically, you're going to have columns, and inside the columns, you're going to have rows, and inside rows, you're going to have these primitives. Or you might have something called a stack, or you might have something called a container. It really depends how you're doing. All right, so now that we talked about kind of the basics, how to, you know, how it works, how to, you know, the best practices, how to navigate these settings here, let's go in and let's try to mimic a UI of a popular app. And so the app that I chose for this specific tutorial is we're going to be using Airbnb. Everyone has heard of Airbnb. It's a very, very popular kind of apartment booking place, hotel booking site, etc., etc. And if I go to Airbnb.com and actually view it in a mobile friendly format, this is kind of what you're seeing here. So I don't need to actually pull up my phone and take a look. And what we want to do is we want to try to mimic this UI. And so here we have kind of your search screen here, search bar here. And here we have different settings, right? Design, Arctic, whatever, shared homes, etc., etc. So these are essentially like different tabs. And then on each of these pages, we have the actual listings. Okay, so let's see how far we can get trying to mimic this in FlutterFlow. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to delete everything that I have here. Okay, so I have this header here. I actually don't even need the app bar. Okay, so I have this empty page. And the first thing I want to do is I want to create this search bar here. Now, there's a much faster way of doing it. Is you can go to the UI builder, you can go here, and you can drag and drop this thing right here. Okay, this thing right here. This thing is awesome, right? It has everything that you want. So you can delete all this, just have this, okay? So this is what I recommend. Obviously, in this video, we're going to be doing it for scratch for educational purposes. But if you're doing this for real, I would highly recommend just dragging this, then going to a widget tree and deleting the stuff that you don't need, or simply highlighting and just deleting it. You can just leave it, just leave the search bar here if you want. So I'm going to undo this, and we're going to do it from scratch. Okay, so we're going to go back here. We're going to go to our component screen. And what we want to do is we want to have a container first, right? It's kind of a container. It's going to contain. So this thing right here, all of this stuff inside of something. And here it's going to be a container, right? So we have this container here. Now, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make it kind of on the whole screen, right? You want its width to be covering the entire width of this screen that you have here. So in order to do that, we're going to come in here. And now we have the whole thing here. Next, you kind of want to start adding stuff. So I like to go to my widgets tree, and I can press this button here, and I can go to text. Okay, I'm going to hit text, and now actually not text. So I'm going to come here, and I am going to scroll down, and what I want is a form element. I want a text field. Okay, so now we have a text field right here. Okay, so if we scroll down, we have this text field selected. We can go in here, and we can type, whatever we want. Hey, this is a label right here, just so that you guys understand, this is going to be a hint right here. And then we have initial value here. So I can say initial value, okay? The next thing you want to do is you want to come in here, you want to select the text field, and you want to have kind of a leading icon here, okay? So if you come in here, you see that it has this magnifying glass. So that's kind of what you want. And what you want to select is this leading icon here. And you want to search for search, okay? Something like this. There's a lot of options. And so maybe something like this, search sharp, okay? The next thing you want to do is you want this whole container, you don't want it to be taking up the entire width. You want some padding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a padding of 10, maybe 15, maybe something like this. And now you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it standing out, okay? Now let's go back here. What do we have? We have kind of a shadow. Kind of a drop shadow, so that's what we want to do here. We want to scroll down, and you want to select this shadow right here. Okay, so we're gonna go in here, maybe something like this. You can do a blur. Look at that. Now that it's starting to kind of come together. There's so many things that you can do. Go back to our container, scroll down. You can do a spread. That's a little bit too much. Maybe 1. Okay, something like this. You can also do offsets. You can do a gradient. There's a lot of things that you can do. But right now, it's kind of similar to kind of what we want. Now, it's a little bit, it's a little too big right now, right? Because if you go to this one, it's fairly thin. So we want to decrease the height a little bit, right? So we're going to go back to this container. And we want to make sure that the height is a little bit smaller. So something like this maybe. Yeah, that looks about right. Right, like half. It was 100, now it's 50. That looks a little bit better. And we also have some color, right? It has we have the shadow color, but we also have the fill color. We can kind of unset that if we want, but we can kind of leave it as well. So for instance, I can choose white, and now it's something like this. Okay, so now it's kind of coming together. Let's take a look. We also have another icon here. These are kind of our filters here. So what we want to do is we want to go to a text field, and we want to scroll down, and we want a trailing icon. And so I don't even know if we can find it. So let's say filter. Yeah, so this is good enough. I think something like this is going to work. And now we have this kind of filter icon there in the back, okay? So kind of what we have here. Now, as you can see, it says where to, and then you have on the bottom, you have some other text there. And that's kind of what we want to do. So if you go back here to this text field, and you want to scroll down, and so here it says initial value, right? So this initial value is going to be anywhere, any week, anywhere, any week, any time, right? Is that what it says? add any week, add guess. So a bunch of text here, anywhere, any week. Okay, so something like this. Now you can change how it looks. Right now it's semi-bold. We can make it normal. We could make it something like this. This is the theme we're using. Now you can edit the themes. You can say this could be body text 2. It could be body text 1. You can kind of edit this theme. It's not an issue at all. You can also change the font here. And so that's kind of what we have. Now it says here label, and we needed to say where to. Okay, so something like this. Now remember, you can change the font, open source, you can make it so. And so whatever font you want, this is kind of what you want to do here. Now you can also change the label style, so it could be something different. Remember, this is label right here. Label is where to. So I can select this option here and I can say, well, I want label to be something else, right? So for instance, we have label style. I can open that up and I can say, well, I want it to be bigger. Okay, so I want it to be bigger, and this one I want it to be smaller, which is kind of what we have here. This one is bigger, and this one is smaller. And if we scroll down, we want it to be this initial value. We don't want it to be bold. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to say normal, right? Because it's not bold. I can also increase the line height. Something like this, maybe. Just to give it some space over here. You can kind of play with that, and then you can select max lines and all that. And so right now we kind of have the start of it all, right? And you can create actions on it. You can make it do all kinds of interesting things. The next thing that we need to do is we need this part here, and this is kind of this tab setup, right? We have these tabs with different names, different labels, but we also have this content here. That appears once we click on the particular kind of tab. And these are listings, I suppose, right? We have Arctic, we have shared homes, different categories, essentially. And the way we want to do it here in FlutterFlow is you want to go back to your frequently used elements, and you want to select tabs. You want to type tabs, and you have a tab bar here. So we can drag this tab bar here, and what it's telling us is how do we want to do it, right? What we want to do, actually, a much better way of doing it is you want to add a row here first. So what we're going to do here is we have a home page. I'm just going to add a row. All right, so now I have a row here. This is going to be in another column, right? I essentially have a column here. And this is going to be another row. And in this row, we are going to do tabs. And so now we have the tab bar here, okay? So we have example 1, example 2, example 3, tab view 1. And if we go back to our hierarchy, this is the tab bar here, okay? So this is the tab bar that we have just created. Now, obviously, we want it to look similar to what we have here. We want this to be these little kind of icons with design, like design Arctic. We want it to be kind of a little icon with some text below it. And so what we want to do is that you see these tab bars here, right? And so what you want to do is you want to replace this tab. This is actually the content. This is a placeholder for the content. Right now, it just has the text widget, but we're going to be replacing it with something else. Here, this tab, we want it to be something different. So there's a couple of ways of doing it, but a really easy way of doing it is you can select an icon here. And for instance, let's say house. You can select the house, and now you have a house with the text under it, right? Kind of what we have here, house design. And I can say this is design. Okay, and you can change how it looks, right? You can change icon size. You can make it bigger, right? Something like this. Design, same thing here. We're going to say icon Arctic, snow, snow, cold. So I'm just going to pick random icons here. And we're going to say snow, Arctic. And then a third one. So I'm not going to do all of these. I just want to do like 3 of them just to give you an idea. And the third one is camping. Let's say we say camping. Icon is going to be, do we have camping? Okay, so something like this, I guess. You guys get the idea. So this is 40. This is also 40. Actually, that's pretty big. 30. 30. Okay, and you can change the colors and you can do a lot of things. You can also change the font. You can make it custom if you want, okay? This is something called a tab, but you can make it custom. You can just create a container and do everything manually if you want. That's also an option. But just to get things very, very quickly, that is kind of what we have here, is that we're using the built-in functionality. The next thing is we need this little card here, right? And this is essentially a card. And the reason I say this is a card is because we have an image here. We have this heart, which is essentially a toggle, you know, something that I talked about in the beginning of the video. And then we have some text here. So this is, you know, an image. We have another row. We have another row with, you know, bunch of rows here. We kind of have one column with an image. This is row number one. Row. This could be another row, another row, another row. Essentially, this is row, this is row, this is row, this is row. That's kind of what we have. And that's kind of what you want to do. Obviously, this is going to be a list view here. So if you go in here, you're going to be using it as a list view or a list tile if you want. So you can just drag it in here. And now you have a list view here. But we're going to be coding it from scratch. And so what you want to do is you want to add a stack. And what this will allow us to do is it will allow us to create an image and then stack something on top of it. So let me show you what I mean. So if I come in here, I can just search for a stack. Then inside the stack, I can add an image. Okay? Now, I have a stack, I have an image, and I'm also going to add that toggle button. But the first thing I need to do is I need to make sure this image is taking up this whole area here, okay? And to do that, I need to make sure it's expanding. Okay, so I'm going to go in here, I'm going to expand it, expand the stack, and then expand the image as well. Okay, so now the image is taking up the whole area, the whole container there. Next thing I want to do is I want to go to the stack, and I also want to add that toggle button. Okay, this is that toggle icon. And here's the toggle icon. So on the website, this is the inactive state, but if I click on it and I log in, it's going to be red. So what I want to do is I want to do the same thing, but first I need to make sure it's positioned correctly. And the way you want to do it is you want to drag this thing here. You want to do that, and then you want to drag this thing here. And that's going to allow it to be positioned in this corner right here. The next thing, if you scroll down, we have on icon and we have off icon. So on icon is going to be a heart. We're going to search for a heart. It's kind of a heart like that, which is like a filled-in heart. And we're going to say the color is going to be red. Okay, and then off icon is also going to be a heart. Actually, not this heart. It's going to be an empty heart. So like this. And the color is also going to be red. I'm just going to make it. I don't know why it's black here. I'm going to make it red. Okay, so that's kind of what we were seeing. If you click on it in the logic, we're gonna make sure it's gonna be on icon here, but we're not gonna be doing any logic in this tutorial. This is only UI stuff. Okay, so that is kind of what we have. We have a column here. We have one column here. So if we go in here, we have this one column, and we have a stack that includes these two things. Now, if we scroll down, we scroll on this. It has a bunch of other things. So these are just a bunch of rows here with information. So what we want to do is we want to add more rows. So we have a column. I'm going to add a row to that column. I'm going to say row. And now we have a row here. And now we can kind of fill it in. So I'm going to say text. Text. And it says hello world. And this is going to be, essentially, it's going to be a row with two columns. So this is one row. And then the first column, second column. That's kind of what we want to do. So we have a row, and I'm going to say column. Okay, so now this row, in fact, I'm going to delete that. It has two columns. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to say duplicate, and we have two columns. Now I can go on the row, and I want to align it. I can click on these things, this main axis alignment. I can center it. I can align it in between. I can do all kinds of interesting things. Look at that. Really, really great. So let's say I want it to be kind of like this, space between. So now I can go to this column. I can add a row. I can add a row, and then I can add text. Okay, and then I can do the same thing. Row. Then I can say text. So for instance, this thing is going to be the name of the whatever. Gordon Riviera. It's going to be essentially a city. So I'm just going to simplify it. I'm going to say Rome, Italy. Okay. And then this thing right here, what does it say? New. You know, obviously this is going to be logic. New. You know, something like this. Okay. And there you have it. And like I said, you can kind of change the spacing if you want. Maybe you want it to be, I don't know, something like that. But this is nice. Also, I want to add some padding. So I'm just going to say this is 10 padding here, 10 padding here. So it's not all the way next to the margins, right? So there's a little bit of padding. In fact, all of this has padding, right? So we want to have padding for everything, right? So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to this column 2. And I want to actually make sure that this tab bar page, this column here, has padding as well. So we're going to say 10. Perfect. 10. Okay. And then I don't need individual padding for this row. We're going to remove the padding here. Okay. So now this padding is done on this column level. You see, I highlighted, and the whole thing is highlighted. And then we have this row with 2 columns. And then I can add another row. So I'm going to just duplicate it. I'm going to duplicate it here. And then we have another row. I'm going to delete these columns because I just want a row. I'm going to duplicate it. And then I can essentially add the content that I have. So yeah, it's just one column, designed by May 30th, June 6th, etc., etc. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to add text. And an easier way is just create one row and then just duplicate it a couple of times. So duplicate it. So we're going to have 3 more rows. Is that right? Yeah, 3 more rows. This is going to say design by James Doe. And this is going to say, whatever, May 30th to June 15. And this is going to say $500. I don't know, whatever that number is. And obviously you can kind of change the font here. It's using body text 1. You can make it normal, which is kind of what it is. Normal. There you go. And you can keep adding more things, right? And so maybe you want to make this a little bit bigger. Text. And you want, let's say, maybe 16. And you can change the font. So that's kind of what we have here. We have this toggle icon. We have this image of the thing. And the image, it looks like kind of a square. Oh, it also has rounded corners. So that's kind of what we want to do. We want to go to this image. And we want to make sure it has a border radius. Okay, so we're going to lock that. We're going to say 10, 20, let's say 50. Okay, that looks a little bit better. I think that's a little too much. So let's scroll down. Let's do 30. Okay, how about this? Okay, that looks a little bit better, right? You might need to align this thing. And it's also, the width is also, you can make it 50%. You can do it in pixels so that you could do 100. Or actually, you can do it, 500. And this can be also 500. So now it's kind of like more or less kind of like a square, right? 500 pixels. Or you can do it 450, maybe 400. Okay, or something, or even more or less. Okay, that looks a little bit better, right? Something like this. And you can obviously change this thing here as well. All right, there you have it. And so now it's a little bit tidier. Now, obviously, this is going to be a component widget that's going to be displayed using something like a list view. Okay, that's kind of how it's going to look like. And you're going to do this for all the tabs. So if you click on here, you have this tab view. You can just simply, obviously, these are going to be different items, different categories, right? So you can just come in here and you can see, so for instance, we go in here, we have this tab bar here, right? So if we open it up, we have a column. You can just copy that and you can copy and paste it all for the other ones, okay? Now we're kind of done with the UI here. Another thing that you may want to do is have this kind of bottom a bunch of options here, a bottom navigation items here. So like explore, wish list, and login. And that's also very, very easy to do. We're going to go back to our widgets tree. We have the tab bar. We have a column here, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another row, right? And so as you can see, I have a column, container, and tab bar. I'm going to click here and I'm going to say row, and that adds a row right here. And now I can go ahead and I can build this thing out. Okay, so I can have a container that has an icon, explore, etc., etc. So you can have a container with 2 rows. Okay, so for instance, something like this. You have a row, and I can add a container, and that container might have 2 rows. So something like this. A row and another row. We're going to duplicate it. And what we have now is a container with 2 rows, essentially. And what you can do, essentially, is you can duplicate that. And now you have another one. You can duplicate that. And now you have another one. So you can go back to this row, and then you can align it how you want. So something like this, where it's evenly spaced. And then you can go inside the row, and you can add your items. So we have an image, and we have text. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to say I need an icon. Icon button. I'm going to go in here, and this is going to be an icon. And I also need text. So I need text below it. And then for the next row, I'm going to add text. And now we kind of have it aligned perfectly. And obviously, you can kind of align it how you want. You can do this. You can center it here. Look at this. You can center it. And it's all very, very flexible. In fact, a better way of doing it is you want to kind of delete this. You want to delete these containers. And you want to just duplicate it. Because they're inside the row, it's not going to be any issues. We're going to say duplicate and duplicate. And you can duplicate as many as you want. It's going to align it perfectly according to the rules that you have here. So as you can see, I'm using this space evenly alignment method. And you can do it something like this. You can do it this. So it's very, very easy. And now you kind of want to fix your text, right? So we have hello world. And we have, what do we have? Explore, wishlist, and login. So explore. This should be explore. This should be wishlist. And this should be login. And obviously you want to change the icon, which is very simple. Explore, maybe a compass. And then this wish list, what are they using? A heart, okay. That's very original. A heart. And then this login, maybe a person. Perfect. Okay, there you go. And you can change the color. And so as you can see, they're using kind of a grayish color. And then when something is selected, it changes color. So we can do the same thing here. We can come in here and we can, pick something like this. So you see it's a different color now. We can do the same thing here. And you obviously want it to be all the same color, but I'm just going very quickly here just to show you how it works. And you can change the color of the text as well. And now we are kind of done. There's still a bunch of other things that are left to do. You want to add more functionality, you want to have a map view, etc., etc. But the gist of it is that the main thing is pretty much done. And now it's a question of kind of doing the logic, connecting it to your database, having events that are fired. So if I click on it, I can go in here and I can configure this action flow editor. And all of that is something I'm going to be covering in a future video. In this video, I only talked about just designing, just the UI stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give this video a fat like. That really, really helps the channel a lot. And it really motivates me to create more videos and teach you some more interesting things. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because on this channel, we talk about ways of writing amazing apps without a single line of code. And leave a comment, just let me know what you think about this method. If you have any questions, concerns, something you did not understand, and I'll do my best to help you out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.